Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, no. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Let us start by singing Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Madhava Shri Radhe, Jayo Jagannatha Swami Jagannatha, Jayo Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai. Jayo Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayo Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुब्रह्मण्य की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरुदेव की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं, देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. By reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके Bhaktir Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering your service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. So we are looking at verse 394 today. There's no projection today, so if you have your smartphones, I think you can open it. 394. Please repeat after me if you can. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakana. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakana. Tasmai namo bhagavate vidhematu. Yo nadruto narakabhagirasatprasangaihi. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakanam. Tasmai namo bhagavate anuvidhema tubhyam. Yo nadruto narakabhagirasatprasangaihi. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakanam. Tasmai namo bhagavate anuvidhema tubhyam. Yo nadruto narakabhagirasatprasangaihi. Anyone wants to repeat, Rose? Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakanam. Tasmai namo bhagavate anuvidhema tubhyam. Yo nadruto narakabhagirasatprasangaihi. Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya. Dhyane smanodarshitam ta upasakanam. Tasmai namo bhagavate anuvidhema tubhyam. Yo nadruto narakabhagirasatprasangaihi. Mataji, you want to repeat? Okay. So let us repeat the synonyms. Tat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Va, or. Idam, this present form. Bhuvana Mangala, O you who are all auspicious for all the universes. Mangalaya, for the sake of all prosperity. Dhyane, in meditation. Sma, as it were. Naha, unto us. darshitam, manifested, te, your, upasakanam, of the devotees, tasmai, unto him, namaha, my respectful obeisances, bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead, anuvidhema, I perform, tubhyam, unto him, yaha, which, anadrutaha, is neglected, naraka bhagbhi, by persons destined for hell, asat prasangaihi, by material topics. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please repeat the translation. This present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. Please hear the purport. Regarding the personal and impersonal features of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personal forms exhibited by the Lord in his different plenary expansions are all for the benediction of all the universes. The personal form of the Lord is also worshipped in meditation as Supersoul, Paramatma, but the impersonal Brahmajyoti is not worshipped. Persons who are addicted to the impersonal feature of the Lord, whether in meditation or otherwise, are all pilgrims to hell, because, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.5, impersonalists simply waste their time in mundane mental speculation because they are addicted more to false arguments than to reality. Therefore, the association of the impersonalists is condemned herewith by Brahma. All the plenary expansions of the personality of Godhead are equally potent, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 546. Deeparchireva hi dashantaramabhyupetya Deepayate vivtahetu samana dharma Yastadrugeva hi cha vishnutaya vibhati Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The Lord expands himself as the flames of a fire expand one after another. Although the original flame, or Sri Krishna, is accepted as Govinda, the Supreme Person, all other expansions such as Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha are as potent as the original Lord. All such expanded forms are transcendental. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is made clear that the Supreme Truth is eternally uncontaminated by material touch. There is no jugglery of words and activities in the transcendental kingdom of the Lord. All the Lord's forms are transcendental, and such manifestations are ever identical. The particular form of the Lord exhibited to a devotee is not mundane, even though the devotee may retain material desire, nor is it manifest under the influence of material energy, as is foolishly considered by the impersonalists. Impersonalists who consider the transcendental forms of the Lord to be products of the material world are surely destined for hell. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaure Tvishe Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So looking at 394 today. So this verse is a continuation of Lord Brahma's prayers that started at the beginning of this chapter. And in the previous chapter, we would have seen how Lord Brahma was first perplexed as to what his origin is. He was all alone because he was the first created being. He was all alone on the top of the lotus flower, and he wanted to find out what his origin is. So he actually went through the stem of the lotus flower, and he went till the end for thousands of years, but still he could not trace out the origin of that stem. So he came back up again, and when he heard the word tapa, he started meditating, right? And after many years, I think 1,000 celestial years, after so many years, Krishna finally revealed his personal form to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma starts offering prayers to the Lord. And before that, Krishna actually imparts the import of all Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Lord Brahma. That's when he realizes his position and the position of the Lord also, and then he starts offering these prayers. And he prays to empower him to do the creation using the Lord Brahma actually does the secondary creation, as we call it, because the primary ingredients required for this creation are actually provided by Krishna himself in terms of the five elements and other things, right? So in this chapter, as we said, Lord Brahma is glorifying the Lord by beautiful prayers, and there are a few verses after his prayers where the Lord also speaks, gives reply to Lord Brahma. Very important verses, actually, very important, powerful verses that the Lord speaks, right? So in this verse that we're looking at today, there are primarily two points that I could bring out in this verse. The first point is that all the forms of the Lord, wherever they exhibited, and they are all auspicious for all the universes. That's the first point. The second point is about this neglecting of the spirit, the personal form of the Lord. It can actually lead us to hell when we neglect the personal form of the Lord. So let us try and see if we can understand these 2 points in more detail. So Lord Brahma says that, as I said just now, any form that the Lord exhibits is all auspicious for all the universes. And because it's Bhuvana Mangala is the word that's used in this verse. Bhuvana Mangala. Bhuvana means it actually includes all the planetary systems, right? And because the Lord is all auspicious, anything and everything related to him is auspicious. And though he may appear in a particular planet, but it not only benefits the inhabitants of that planet alone, but it actually benefits all the universes. That's the primary point that the verse is talking about, right? For example, when the Lord came as Narasimhadev, when he killed Hiranyakashipu, that benefit of killing Hiranyakashipu was actually enjoyed by not only the residents of the particular planet that he appeared in, but all the living entities in all the planetary systems were benefited by it. Isn't it? Even the demigods were troubled by him, the human beings, the sages, the saints, all the people in all the planetary systems were troubled by Hiranyakashipu. So when the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu, everyone was benefited. In the same way, when the Lord killed Ravana again, in the same way, not only did it benefit the sages in Dandakaranya or the ones in earthly planet, when Ravana actually troubled all the demigods also. Even they were looking forward for the killing of Ravana, right? So when the Lord killed Ravana, even then all the inhabitants of all the planetary systems were benefited by it, right? Sometimes So when we analyze like this all the appearances of the Lord, we can understand at least to some extent how it benefits everyone in all the universes. Sometimes it may be obvious, like the examples that we saw. But sometimes it may not be obvious, because we don't have enough intelligence, nor do we have enough spiritual vision to see how it actually impacts all the universes. Prabhupada doesn't say it benefits all the planets in one universe. He says all universes actually. So we don't have the eyes or the knowledge to actually perceive that benefit really. Right? And we also take several bodies, innumerable bodies in fact. And when we take birth, no one really says that by our taking birth, all the universes are benefited, isn't it? No one says that. And forget about benefiting all universes. It doesn't even benefit us actually. For example, because let's say if we take the body of a non-human being, we don't even have a higher consciousness. We don't even know what we're doing, right? So forget about that. And even when we take a human form of body, even then we don't do any good for ourselves or anyone else. Either vast majority of the people, either we use our bodies to benefit us or benefit the extended body, like our family, friends, and society, whatnot. Or worse still, we may even engage in sinful activities and go to hell actually. So that's our condition really. So the benefit accrued by us taking a body is really insignificant, or in some cases even worse actually, right? But when Krishna takes on a body, and it is totally different, and it becomes a reservoir of all goodness that will benefit every living entity actually, right? And at this juncture, it's pertinent to look at a question that Parikshit Maharaj posed to Sukadeva Goswami in Bhagavatam. He says in 288, he asks, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities? And it's a very important question, right? I mean, it's a common question. So both we and the Lord assume bodies. So really, what is the difference? And Prabhupada elaborates this question actually. It's a very, very nice purport. He says, in the creation of the material world, the Supreme Lord undoubtedly assumes a gigantic body. Right? And living entities also get bodies, big or small, according to necessity. For example, an elephant gets a gigantic body according to its needs. And so also an ant gets its body according to its needs. Similarly, if the personality of Godhead assumes a gigantic body to accommodate the universes or the planets of a particular universe, there is no difference in the principle of assuming or accepting a particular type of body in terms of necessity. A beautiful statement. A living being and the Lord cannot be distinguished simply by the difference in the magnitude of the body. So the answer depends on the specific significance of the body of the Lord as distinguished from the body of the common living entities, living being. So this is a question that I always had also, because we always say that the living entity and the Lord are qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. But somehow is never really personally convinced with that point alone, because to me a gigantic body is a gross attribute, isn't it? How can someone be greater only because he has a bigger size body? Size is a gross attribute, isn't it? So I don't really understand how just by having a gigantic body the Lord is greater than us. There must be something else. So Sukadeva Goswami answers this question in 294, where he says, Atma Tattva Vishuddhyartham Yad Aha Bhagavan Rutam Brahmane Darshayan Rupam Avyalika Vrithaduraha. He says, O King, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-destructive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. When I first read this, I couldn't understand how this verse answered Parikshit Maharaj's question. But Prabhupada explains a little bit in the purport. He gives one of the explanations as to what is the difference between the Lord's body and body of the living entities. And he says that, Prabhupada says, Brahmaji did not perform such severe types of penance just to see a form of material production. Therefore, the question by Parikshit Maharaj about the form of the Lord is answered. And he explains, the form of the Lord is Satchidananda, or eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But the material form of the living being is neither eternal, nor full of knowledge, nor blissful. This is the distinction between the form of the Lord and that of the conditioned soul. So this is one of the differences between our body and the Lord's body. In our case, our body perishes with time. It undergoes various things like birth, death, diseases. It undergoes diseases. It dies, and decay is there. All these things are there in our body, and the body stays fresh only so long as the soul is present in the body. The moment the soul leaves the body, the body starts dwindling. We cannot even bear the smell of the body after a while, right? So, but the Lord's form, on the other hand, it remains fresh. It remains full of bliss and knowledge forever, actually, right? So for the Lord, there is no difference in the body of the Lord and the self proper of the Lord. But in our case, our body is different from us, isn't it? Because we have pure spirit soul. So that's why we say that when we take on a material body, because it's not blissful, or because it's not knowledgeable, neither nor is it because nor is it eternal, we never feel blissful when we are present in a material body, right? And but on the other hand, the Lord's form, as you said, is all blissful. That's why we see that when we take darshan of the Lord in His deity form, we feel blissful. I mean, it may not be apparent when we take darshan of Jagannath, because we are so used to taking His darshan every time, and we get used to it. So we don't, unless we have that real mood to see the Lord nicely every time we take darshan of Him, we don't really notice Him. We don't really get any feeling out of it, when we take darshan of the Lord. But let's just say if you go to Tirupati, what happens? We stand in the line for hours and hours and hours together, just to get a glimpse of the Lord for 2 seconds, literally. So they push us away, But even then, when we take darshan of the Lord like that for 2 seconds, we feel so blissful, so happy, So that proves the transcendental nature of the Lord's form, really, because He is Satchidananda Vigraha. He distributes that bliss to all those who come, who take shelter of Him, actually, who try to sincerely approach Him. Right? So that's the first thing. The next point is that we are forced to take on a body, but Krishna is not forced to take on a body. We generally take birth because we were forced to accept a body by the material nature, according to the laws of karma. We do not have a choice as to what body we can take on. We don't take on a form, actually. We are just given one, and we have to live with it. All right. But it is interesting to note that the living entity actually has the ability to dictate what body he can have after this life, right? The choice is of the living entity to decide whether he wants to lead an impious life, committing sinful activities without disregarding all the scriptural injunctions, and go to hell, or do we want to lead a pious life following all the scriptural injunctions and go to heaven, for example? Or do we want to come to the spiritual side of things and engage ourselves in devotional service, or the Nivritti Marga, and make this our last life? The choice is left with the living entity, actually, right? So we have to exercise that intelligence to decide what we want to do with our bodies. Right? That much freedom is given to us. That is independence given to us, actually. Right? I will not go into why we don't really use this body to engage ourselves in Nivritti Marga all the time. That's a different topic altogether. But we're just talking about the significance of the difference in the bodies of the Lord and us. Right? So, but as Krishna, as we know, He appears on His own sweet will. He is not forced to take birth like us. He comes whenever He wants, in whatever form He wishes to come in. Right? And that's why Lord Indra in Bhagavatam uses the word Swachanda Upata Dehaya. Swachanda, the word Swachanda is very common in our in Indian languages. Isn't it? It's free will. We are free to do whatever we want. So Swachanda. Upatta means assumes. Upata, assumes. Dehaya means different bodies. So the Lord, He accepts different bodies on His own sweet will. Right? And it depends on the mission that He wants to accomplish. He comes in a particular form. For example, when when he came as Narasimhadev, we know that he had to take care of, fulfill all the conditions that Hiranyakashipu put when he got the benediction from Lord Brahma. So he took on a form that bypassed all the conditions that Hiranyakashipu put and came in the form of a man lion, right, really. So it is completely up to the will of the Lord how he wants to come and when he wants to come. And the next point we can understand is every appearance of the Lord has a purpose, right? And the Lord himself says this in Bhagavad Gita in those two famous verses that we all know about. Paritranaya yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He says that whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious principles, then he descend, and the predominant rise of irreligion at that time I descend, and to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I appear myself millennium after millennium. So that's what Krishna says. So the important thing is that there is a purpose behind all his appearances. Actually, he doesn't appear just for the sake of coming, right? He accomplishes several purposes when he comes. For example, when he came as Lord Ram, he did not come only to kill Ravana and Kumbhakarna. He not only accomplished that purpose, but he also did other things also. For example, he set a very good example as to how an ideal king should rule. He also showed what a human being can actually achieve if he is attached to truth and dharma, right? And he also came to display his fighting prowess. Rama Shastra Bhrutamaham, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Of all the wielders of weapon, I'm Rama. He's so good at fighting. In fact, he killed when he killed the 14,000 demons after Shurpanaka went and complained to her brothers Khara and Dushana, and they came with 14,000 demons, and all of them attacked the Lord at the same time, at one time, right? But he single-handedly decimated them in 2 hours something, just within 2 hours or something. And it is said in Ramayana that the demons could not see when the Lord was taking out the bow, when he was putting it to the bow, the arrow, when he was putting the arrow to the bow, and when he was releasing it. They could not see anything at all what was happening. He was drawing the arrows so fast and shooting them so fast that they couldn't even see what he was doing. So he was so great actually. So he came to display that his fighting prowess also. So similarly, all other incarnations also, when he appears, if you analyze, he actually achieves various objectives, not just the primary purpose of just killing demons or anything, right? But when we take on body, we only take body for one reason. We only take birth either to enjoy or suffer our karma from previous lives, right? And it is also said that the real reason that Krishna comes is really to please his devotees, actually, to benefit his devotees more than anything else. Yes, he came to kill Hiranyakashipu, but he actually primarily came to please Prahlad Maharaj. And yes, he came to kill Ravana and Kumbhakarna, but he also came primarily to please so many of his devotees, actually, right? And similarly, in Krishna's form also, not only did he come to kill the demons and the various demonic personalities present at that time, he came to benefit the legion of devotees present at that time, right? So that's the reason. That's the primary reason what Acharyas have explained, that Krishna comes to this material world, right? Because Krishna is personal in nature. He likes to be with his devotees, actually. That's why he says to Narada Muni, he says that Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hrudayeshu va tatra tishtami Narada yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. He says that I don't sit in Vaikunta where I have hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis serving me all the time, catering to every whim of mine, right? I don't sit in Vaikunta, nor do I sit in the hearts of the yogis who have been meditating for me for thousands and thousands of years. They've been trying to catch me for thousands of years, but I don't sit in their hearts also. But where do I sit? I sit where my devotees are singing my glories with relish. I sit where my devotees are conversing with each other about my glories. I sit where my devotees are trying to feed me lovingly, trying to dress me lovingly, trying to worship me lovingly, I am present there actually, right? So, that's what Krishna is, because Krishna is personal in nature, as we said, you know. So he doesn't need anything from us really, actually, frankly speaking. Whatever we are offering, as Chandrasekhar Prabhu always says, is that, whatever we are offering to Krishna, it is actually provided to us by Krishna himself. We did not create anything in this material world, isn't it? All the ingredients, the foods, flowers, or whatever we are offering to Krishna, everything is given by him only. We are just taking the same thing and giving it to him, adding our love to it actually. The same way we offer Ganga Jal to Ganga. When we go to Ganga, we worship her by offering her own water actually. In the same way, we offer whatever we offer to Krishna, all of them, all of it was provided by Krishna himself. So he doesn't need anything from us. But there's one thing that he doesn't own from us, in us. That is only our love actually. Right? He doesn't have proprietorship over that aspect of us. It is ours, and it is for us to choose where to repose that love. And when we repose that on the Lord, that's when the Lord also reciprocates with us actually. So that's what all the devotees had in common also. Be it the cowherd boys and girls in Vrindavan, be it Kubja or be it Vidura or be it Sudama, all these devotees have had only one thing in common, which is a love. That's what they offered to the Lord, and that's what the Lord appreciated the most actually, right? That's what is more important. Moving on, Krishna also appears in different species of life actually. Not only does he appear as in the form of a human, he appears in various forms actually, right? Bhagavatam says that in 10, 14, 20 it says, Suresh Rishishi Shatathaivan Rushvapi Tiryakshu Yadashvapi Te Janasya Janma Satam Durmadane Grahaya Prabhu Vidhata Sadanugrahaya Cha. Says, O Lord, O Supreme Creator and Master, you have no material birth. Yet, to defeat the false pride of the faithless demons and show mercy to your saintly devotees, you take birth among the demigods, sages, human beings, animals, and even the aquatics. And we know, for example, he appeared as Vamanadev among the demigods, right? Sages, he appeared as Naranarayana Rishi amongst the sages, or Kapiladev amongst the sages. And human beings, we know very famously, he appeared as Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. And as animals, he appeared as boar incarnation, for example. And the aquatics, he appeared as Matsya. So in this way, he assumes various forms in different species of life, right? And he does this because he wants to cater to the different inclinations of the living entities. And not all living entities are made of the same cloth, isn't it? Different living entities have different mentalities. Some of them may like to worship a fearful form like Lord Arshimadev. Someone may want to worship an animal form. Someone may be attracted to worship a human-like form. So different people have different preferences. So to cater to the inclinations of all the different living entities, he appears in all these different species also. And I think there is some verse in Bhagavatam, I couldn't get the reference this time around. The verse says that he comes to benefit the living entities in those species also. And the example that I gave is more talking from a human point of view, where different human beings want to worship different forms. But that verse actually says that not only does it benefit humans, but it actually benefits the living entities in those species of life also. Right? We don't know how, but it does. Right? So that is the Lord's merciful nature actually, because all the living entities are nothing but his own parts and parcels. So because being the kind Father that he is, he comes in various forms to please the devotees. So that is his merciful nature. The next point is that even if he appears in a particular form, not everybody may recognize him, right? He only reveals himself to his devotees. In the 7th chapter, Krishna says, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha mudhoyam navijanati loko mam ajamabhyam. 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 7:25. So I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Right? So though Krishna may be present right in front of us, we may not still see him. when he came as Krishna, Duryodhana, Shishupala, and all these different people, they also saw Krishna, right? And even all the demons in Dandakaranya, when he came as Lord Ram, they also took his darshan, but they did not accept the divinity of Krishna. They just took it that he's just another human being like us, like everyone else, right? So, and even the Brahmanas, forget about all these demonic personalities. Even the Brahmana, so-called learned Brahmanas in Vrindavan, did not accept Krishna's supremacy. You know, when in one of the chapters, in 23rd chapter of 10th canto, there's a chapter which describes about how Krishna delivered the wives of the Brahmanas, right? So once Krishna and his friends with Balram, they went to a forest, and the friends of Krishna, they were very hungry, and they asked Krishna, and Krishna, we are really hungry today. Please give us, try to get some food for us, you know. And Krishna, being the ever merciful Lord, you know, always looking after the needs of his devotees, he told them that, you know, a little bit from here, there's a sacrifice going on. So go to the sacrificial arena and ask the Brahmanas to give you food, telling my name, and that I sent you to them, you know. So these friends, they happily go to the Brahmanas, and they pay obeisances to the Brahmanas, and very respectfully they related whatever Krishna asked them to tell them. Right? That became on behalf of Krishna. Krishna is just is there in the forest with Balram, and he wanted us to ask you for some food. And the Brahmanas were so arrogant that they did not even answer the cowherd boys. They just ignored them completely. Right? That's why it says, one of the verses says that although the ingredients of the sacrificial performance, the place, time, particular paraphernalia, mantras, rituals, priests, fires, demigods, performer, offering, and the as yet unseen beneficial results are all simply aspects of his opulences. The Brahmanas saw Lord Krishna as an ordinary human because of their perverted intelligence. They fail to recognize that he is the supreme absolute truth, the directly manifest personality of Godhead, whom the material senses cannot ordinarily perceive. Thus, bewildered by their false identification with the material body, they did not show him proper respect. So that was the condition of the Brahmanas. So though Krishna is considered a sacrifice personified, and though he is the real enjoyer of all the sacrifices, you know, Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam, though he is the one who actually awards the results of the sacrifices being performed, the Brahmanas did not have the eyes or the heart to accept Krishna. Right? They thought that the sanctity of their sacrifice was more important than Krishna himself. So these friends, they came back to Krishna. They were very disappointed, and they came back to Krishna and told them whatever happened. And Krishna this time told his friends that, you know, now we go back again, but this time go to the wives of the Brahmanas and tell them that I've asked for some food, and beg it from them and bring it. Right? So the friends went back, and this time they went to the wives of the Brahmanas, and they related to them again what Krishna told them. Right? And these Brahmanas, they actually heard the glories of Krishna from all the different cowherd girls who were visiting their homes from Vrindavan, probably. You know? So they heard a lot about the attributes, about the qualities, about the pastimes of the Lord. So they developed a very deep love towards the Lord. And when they heard that Krishna personally asked them to give food, they did not just give the food to the cowherd boys and ask them to take it. They personally packed everything. The different, they say, Bhagavatam says, for the 4 different kinds of foodstuffs, they packed everything, and they put it on their heads and went to Krishna. And the moment they took darshan of Krishna from afar, they embraced him deep within their hearts, actually, right, as a worshipful Lord. And Krishna teased them, actually. After that, Krishna teased them, you know, you go back now, you know. But the Brahmanas, the wives of the Brahmanas said, you know, how can you ask us to go, you know? Now our husbands are not going to accept us, nor will the society will accept us, you know, because we are considered impure now. But Krishna tells them that, you know, don't worry about it. Your husbands and your families and the society, everyone will accept you. Don't you worry about it. You just go back and keep remembering me. And true enough, when they go back, all the husbands and the sons and everyone accepted the wives as they are. They did not chastise them. On the contrary, there was a transformation in their hearts, actually, because Krishna as Paramatma can influence anyone, and he can impart the required knowledge for anyone to become purified. So this time around, the Brahmanas themselves were ashamed of themselves, actually. Literally, they say that, fee on our sacrifices and our penances and austerities and whatnot. You know. To hell with all of them, really. And what is the use of us doing all these sacrifices if we could not please the Yajnapati himself? So this is how everyone. So this is how, though Krishna is present in front of them, they could not see as he was actually. So that's why Kunti Maharani says in Bhagavatam that Maya Javani Kachanam Agnya Dhokshajam Avyam Nalakshase Modadrusha Nato Natidharo Yatha. She says that beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invincible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So Krishna is covered by this curtain of Maya that prevents us from taking darshan of him, true darshan of him. Even in our case, though he is present in front of us in the form of deity, in the form of holy names, but we do anything and everything to ignore him than to take darshan of him. Actually, when we chant, for example, we think about anything and everything except Krishna. So we are being indifferent to him, really, in that sense. Yeah? And when we are with the deities, we talk whatever we want, we behave whatever we want, we sit however we like. We do all these things, because we don't really think, we don't really feel that Krishna is actually personally present in the form of deity, right? So not only are the Brahmanas blind to the supremacy of Krishna, at our level we are also actually. So if we want to call ourselves devotees, we have to curb this mentality, really. And so that's the first point I wanted to discuss. The second aspect of this, that this verse is talking about, as I said at the beginning, is this personal and impersonal form of the Lord, right? So, and me trying to prove that the personal form of the Lord to you is like preaching to the converted, because as devotees we have kind of already accepted that the personal form of the Lord is already supreme, But just to convince my own Kali Yuga mind, we'll just look at some points that will help us understand this point better, right? So the first thing we can understand about this is that Krishna himself actually makes a very clear distinction between him and his Brahman form, his impersonal Brahman form. In chapter 14, the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amrutasya vyasacha shashvatasya dharmasya sukasya kantikasya cha. He says, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is impersonal, imperishable, eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So this Brahman feature has its basis in the Lord, actually. It is not an independent entity as such. It's not as how the Mayavadis would like us to tell. Sorry to use the word Mayavadis for lack of a better word. I'm just using that just to make it convenient for everyone to understand. So they say that everything is Brahman. I am Brahman, you are Brahman, Krishna is also Brahman, right? And they say that Brahman assumes various forms just so that it becomes easy for the conditioned living entity to relate with him. That's what they say. So if that is the case, then why would this verse say that, in this verse, why would Krishna say that I am the basis of Brahman? Why would he say that, if he is Brahman only and there's no personal form to him? He's clearly making a distinction, isn't it? And Prabhupada says in one of the purports in first canto that if what the Mayavadis say is true, that Krishna is also like us and he takes on bodies like us, then why would he ask, Prabhupada poses this question that, if that being the case, why would someone like Shukadeva Goswami, who is self-realized, why would he take the trouble of spending 7 days and nights to talk about the pastimes of the Lord? Because if Krishna's body is just like ours and there's no difference between him and us, what is the significance really of discussing the pastimes of the Lord, right? So, and but there'll be nothing special about his dealings in this world, isn't it? But we glorify all his activities. Even if even when he steals something, we relish it so much. If we do that, people will thrash us. But we relish all the childhood pranks of Krishna, isn't it? We enjoy them like anything. So he is actually very distinct from us. Distinct from he has a personal form which is distinct from Brahman. And Srila Prabhupada gives further clarification that while it is absolutely true that Krishna and the living entity are qualitatively one, there is a difference between them. And one of the differences is that the living entities are subject to the influence of of the illusory energy of the Lord, but whereas the Lord is not subject to the illusory energy, because it is the Lord who created the illusory energy in the first place. So how can the creator of the illusory energy come under its influence? For example, when a scientist manufactures a super intelligent robot, for example, which is as capable as a human being, which can kill the scientist also, for example. The scientist knows exactly what to do to control that robot, isn't it? He knows how not to get influenced by that robot, isn't it? So in the same way, Krishna also, because he was the one who created the illusory energy, he obviously knows how not to come under the influence of the illusory energy. And apart from him, there's no one in this entire creation that is immune from the influence of illusory energy. Nobody, nobody. So much so that even I always remember this past time when Krishna, for 1 year, he took on the forms of all the cowherd boys and cows and whatnot. Lord Balram could not recognize him for one full year. Only towards the end of 1 year that he could recognize that, and he observed that everyone is so loving with Krishna. Only then he could realize that uh, something is wrong, and then he asked Krishna, and only then Krishna revealed to him. So when he wants to cover someone with his illusion energy, nobody can escape from it really. But Krishna, on the other hand, is completely free from its influence actually. So that is one big difference that we have. So Krishna's personal form is not Brahman. So the devotees are not interested in his Brahman form, right? So there's a verse in Ishopanishad that Prabhupada often quotes to substantiate this point. He says that the mantra 15 of Ishopanishad says, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapihitam mukham tattvam pushan apapranu satyam dharmaya drushtaye. He says, Prabhupada translates this in Bhagavatam. If you look at the translation in Ishopanishad, it's a bit different. It's very short actually. But here in Kunti Mata's prayers, Prabhupada translates it a bit differently. He gives a very elaborate translation. He gives, "O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Sachidananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge." So that's what a devotee prays to the Lord, to remove that covering, remove that effulgence that is covering the Lord and making him invisible to us in that sense, right? So as we know, absolute truth is realized in three stages, as Prabhupada always says, as Brahman, as Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And so the devotee prays for the impersonal Brahman covering to be removed so that he can realize the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. And the fact that the Bhagavan feature is highest is proved again when we look at different verses actually. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, the last two verses of the 6th chapter, 646, Krishna says that, he says that a yogi is better than a tapasvi, a jnani, and a fruitive worker. And in the next verse, he says who is the best yogi. As Dinabandhu Prabhu was saying a few classes ago, he kind of cheated the Ashtanga yogis who were quoting this verse to prove that yoga, the physical yoga system, is better than any other form of realization. But in the very next verse, Krishna refutes that and clarifies, gives a clarification. And he says that, of all the yogis, one who with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. And this is my opinion. So Krishna in this verse itself very conclusively proves that devotional service to his personal form is the highest form of realization. And of course, the other place where he clarifies this even more clearly is the 12th chapter, where Arjuna directly asks Krishna, what in your opinion, what do you think Krishna is the best form of worshipping you? Is it worshipping your personal form? Is it performing devotional service to you? Or is it worshipping the unmanifest form of yours? And Krishna very clearly says that those who fix their, he says that worshipping his personal form is the highest. Is the highest actually. He says that those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered to me the most perfect. Right? Very clearly, Krishna says. I don't think it can get any more clearer than this. So, and after all the stages of self-realization, finally the living entity comes to the level of Bhagavan realization. That's what Krishna says in the very next verse in 12th chapter, 12:5, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He says that those who fully worship me in my unmanifested and impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and be equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Right? So the Bhagavan feature is the last word in self-realization in that sense. So, and in the Bhagavan feature, as we discussed before previously, Krishna likes to associate with his devotees personally, right? And as we said just now, after many births, the living entity actually comes to the realization of the personal form of the Lord, comes to that conception. Bhagavatam 10:11, there's a verse that says this that talks about the cowhead boys. Shukadeva Goswami says this, Ittham satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena mayashritanam navadarakena shakam vijagru kruta punya punjaha. He says the personality of Godhead, who is perceived as the impersonal, blissful Brahman by the Jnanis, who is worshipped as the Supreme Lord by devotees in the mood of servitorship, and who is considered an ordinary human being by mundane people, played with the cowhead boys who had attained their position after accumulating many pious activities. We know this actually. It is said by Acharyas and it is said by the scriptures also that the cowhead boys and girls that are playing with Krishna in Navana, they were actually very elevated, pious saints in previous lives. At least one section of them are from Dandakaranya, when Lord Ram visited the Dandakaranya forest. When they took darshan of the Lord, even though they were male, they were so attracted to the form of the Lord actually. Right? And they wanted to follow the Lord everywhere. They were so attracted. And so it is said that those are at least one section of the sages took birth in Krishna Leela as his cowherd friends, really. So after many births of performing, after performing many pious activities, after many births, that a devotee gets the opportunity to associate with the Lord personally, right? And so for Brahman realization, the living entity only has to believe in transcendence, with full faith and realize that he is not the body. That's enough for Brahman realization. But to be able to associate with the Lord personally, we actually have to have that love towards the Lord. We have to have the urge to want to serve him personally, right? And that's when Krishna reciprocates with our desires. And that's what he says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Ye yathamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. So you desire as I reciprocate, So if we long to associate with him, Krishna will fulfill our desire. And this desire to long for his association and this urge to want to serve him personally, how does it come? And how does it come? It comes through the association of devotees. That's what Prabhupada says, and that's what happened. That's what we see in the example of Narad Muni. He was a mere cowherd boy. He was a mere maid servant son actually, and once he happened to get the opportunity of serving the Bhakti Vedantas for the Chaturmasya period, and when his mother was serving them, right? And at that time, he heard about the glories of the Lord from those Bhakti Vedantas actually, right? So that's when he developed that loving attachment to the Lord, which ultimately resulted in him becoming Narad Muni, who is authority of devotional service, who became the spiritual master of so many other great devotees in Bhagavatam. We can see Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, all these different devotees were disciples of Narad Muni actually, right? So that is the power of association with the pure devotees, and that's why we say that Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy, isn't it? And even a moment's association with the pure devotee of the Lord can bring us all perfection actually, right? And Srila Prabhupada says the same thing in one of the purports in 175, that yesterday also Swami Prakash Prabhu quoted this verse, And I was telling him after the class that, I was just going through the first canto again and came across these purports 174 and 175. They're so beautiful, actually. Prabhupada writes such wonderful purports. Those two purports, he writes so wonderful. There are so many important points, actually. So in 175, he says that uh, the surrendering process is a remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering waves of the illusory energy. And by surrender here, Prabhupada is actually referring to the Sarvadharman Parityaja verse, surrender to the Lord, right? And he continues, the surrendering process is completed by the influence of association, right? The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme, conditioned souls are engaged in His transcendental loving service. They get a taste for hearing about the Lord, and by such hearing only are they gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. The whole thing is completed by the surrendering process. So that's what Prabhupada says. So the association of the devotees is very, very important. So we should try to be in the association of devotees, either physically like this, or in the association, or even now in today's age, virtually also, in a way we can hear so many great acharyas in our line. Right, so that will bring us, that will ultimately bring us to the personal service of the Lord. And Bhagavatam also talks about what will happen to us if we ignore the personal form of the Lord. Right, there's a verse where Lord Brahma says, 10:14:4, Lord Brahma says is actually that Shreyash Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Kevala Bodha Labdhaye Teshamasau Kleshala Eva Sishyate Nanyad Yatha Sthula Tushavaghatinam. He says, my dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. That's what we discussed just a while ago, isn't it? And if someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. The important word in the verse is bhaktim or rasya. So that is the result. So that's what we have to understand, that devotional service unto the personal form of the Lord is actually the best method of self-realization. And the result of not following that process is simply trouble, as Lord Brahma says. And Krishna himself says in 12th chapter again that kleshodhikarastesham avyakta asakta chetasam. Those who are attached to this impersonal form of the Lord undergo various difficulties. Actually, he says they undergo they undergo great labor to achieve their goals. So it is very clear from this process again that, as I said, that bhakti is the best process. And there's another beautiful verse that Prabhupada often likes to quote this verse actually. In 10:232, you must have heard this before. Enye ravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayastabhavad abhishuddha buddhayaha aruhya kruchrena param padam tataha patantyatho anadruta yushmadangrayaha. He says again, these are prayers from the second chapter of 10th canto, where the demigods were praying to the Lord who is in the womb of Devaki Mata, and Lord Brahma says this again. And Prabhupada gives an explanation before he starts the actual translation of the verse. He actually gives a small explanation kind of thing. He says this, someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, and now the translation begins, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So unless we take shelter of the lotus feet and serve him personally, there is always the danger of falling down from our spiritual position actually. So I think we have conclusively proved that the personal form of the Lord, worship of the personal form of the Lord is higher than any other form of self-realization, isn't it? And so we have to take association of devotees, we have to take up the process of regulative devotional service and engage in the service of the deities and the devotees, and that is the sure path that will lead us to Krishna one day. And before I conclude, I just wanted to share with you something that I've heard from His Holiness Rompa Swami Maharaj. When I actually read this purport, I could not make head or tail of some of the sentences. I could not really understand what Prabhupada was trying to say. And thankfully, I heard this lecture because Maharaj spoke on this verse that we're discussing today, and he clarified some of the points that were discussed in the purport. So I'll just share with you what Maharaj said so that it becomes clear to us. So the first thing that the first sentence the first thing that Maharaj clarified was that the verse is saying that those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. And Maharaj was explaining that in general, we know that when we perform bad karma, that's when we go to hell, right? But this sentence is saying that those who ignore the personal form of the Lord will go to hell. Indirectly, it is talking about Mayavadis. At least Prabhupada talks about Mayavadis in the purport also, right? But we know that the so-called Mayavadis are not really impious as such. They are considered as one of the transcendentalists, actually, in fact, right? But why is this verse saying that they will go to hell? And Maharaj clarified, saying that even holding a wrong notion philosophically is also nothing but denying the greatness of Krishna. Right? He says that, Maharaj elaborated by saying that in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which he talks about the divine and demoniac natures of living entities. And one of the verses talks about the demoniac natures of the living entities, demoniac persons. It says that they actually disregard God. They don't accept the supremacy of the Lord, right? So similarly, when the Mayavadis, because Mayavadis, as we said before, they say that I am Brahman, you are Brahman, Krishna is also Brahman, everyone is the same. There's no difference really. So from that perspective, Mayavadis are denying the supremacy of the Lord, isn't it? By equating us with the Lord. So Maharaj said that they deny all aspects of an incarnation. They deny, like for example, the deity form. They deny the power of the holy name. They say that everything is material. So from this perspective, from this point of view, they should also be considered as impious, and they deserve to go to hell. That's the explanation that Maharaj gave. And there's one other sentence I did not understand. Thankfully, Maharaj clarified it. The sentence says, all the Lord's forms are transcendental, which is clear, and such manifestations are ever identical. And I could not really make anything out of it. All the forms are transcendental, and all such manifestations are ever identical. So I could not understand how they are identical, because the Lord comes in different forms, right? When He comes as human being, aquatic, or whatever we said a while ago, isn't it? So I could not understand how they are identical. And Maharaj clarified that they are identical in spirit, actually. That's what Prabhupada meant when he said they are identical, right? The next sentence Maharaj clarified was, the particular form of the Lord exhibited to a devotee is not mundane, even though the devotee may retain material desire. Even I do not understand this sentence at all when I read this. Because, first sentence is clear, and the second sentence on its own is clear. But when you combine together, I could not understand, I could not make anything out of it, So the particular form of the Lord exhibited to a devotee is not mundane, even though the devotee may retain material desire. Right? Maharaj gave the example of deities and the holy name again. He said that we also see the form of the Lord in His deity form, or in the form of His holy name, but we also retain material desires at the same time, isn't it? So Maharaj was saying that our having those material desires does not in any way reduce the transcendental nature of the deities or the holy name. That's the explanation he gave. And yes, I think that's the end of it, really. So Maharaj is saying that Prabhupada says that, therefore, the association of the impersonalists is condemned herewith by Brahma. So Maharaj said that this is the application point that Prabhupada is giving us, that we should try not to associate ourselves with so-called Mayavadis, or those people who maintain the conception of impersonal form of the Lord, really. So that's the end of it. Like every time, I'll just quote one verse that describes the beauty of the personal form of the Lord, and I'll end. 10:21:5, Sukadeva Goswami says, Barha pidam natavarapuhu karnayo karnakaram bibhrad vasa kanaka kapisham vaijayanti chamalam randhran venor adhar sudha purayan gopa vrundair vrundaranyam sapadaраmanam pravishad gita kirtihi. It describes the beautiful form of the Lord, wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue Karnikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland. Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavana, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. How beautiful this is. Hare Krishna. Any questions or any realization, any corrections? There's nothing else you can end here. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai.